What's up, everyone? This is DYANAROZAY. Welcome to my channel. You guys see the thumbnail, you know exactly why you're here. I bring a unique commentary to your favorite reality TV shows and whatever is popping on social media. You guys, recently, a think piece was written on Melody Shari and her being the mastermind behind all of the chaos on Love and Marriage Huntsville. Are they calling Melody a manipulator, maybe a puppeteer of both the cast and the audience? Now, there has been some comments from the cast, both present and ex-cast members, who have echoed those statements. But was she really a manipulator, or was she just unwilling to lie for them? Let's talk about it. There was an article that dropped on Saturday, the same day as the episode. Let me pull it up for you guys. Y'all see the title is called Melody Holt is the Mastermind Behind the Chaos on Love and Marriage Huntsville. Now, when you read that title, you think that it's going to be, some ugly things about Melody, basically making her sound like she was being manipulative and things like that. But when you read the article, it's not that at all. And it's not even an article, really. It's kind of feels like a blog. It's an maybe op-ed opinion editorial.
Right.
A couple of maybe a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months, there was something similar written about Martell, and I think that one was called Martell Holt Shouldn't Be on Reality TV. And everyone was like, MSN wrote this article. MSN wrote this article. It was not, it's not an article that's supported by MSN, but they bring up a blogger onto the platform, and it's basically, their views and opinions does not reflect our views and opinions. So it's a blog. It's a blog post like what I'm doing right now. But anyway, this particular person, the person who wrote it is Crystal Jordan, who is, I know she does have a column in Revolts. Okay. I talked to you guys about it a couple of days ago when I talked about the Bugs and the Kiki Jabbar interviews she did, which, by the way, were absolutely excellent, especially Kiki, because Kiki we've seen, a few times over the last couple of months. And, a lot of people ask her repeat questions. So, and she answers them pretty much the same every single time, except for with Crystal. With Crystal, she gave a lot more detail around some of her situations, her recovery journey, her relationships with her family, with Tisha's parents, Tisha's mom, and aunties and all that good stuff. Anyway, I thought it was amazing. I really enjoyed it. I hope everybody had an opportunity to watch. But Crystal has also interviewed almost everybody on Love and Marriage Huntsville, including Melody in the past. And she's always been very, very complimentary of Melody. And this article is complimentary of Melody in more ways than one. She actually says a lot of the things I've said about Melody. Number one, she is crazy smart. Like, she's really intelligent and smart about relationships and interpersonal relationships. I don't think people understand how hard that is to navigate. So knowing people's weaknesses, knowing their strengths, knowing how to handle yourself with certain people, that's a skill. That's a skill you have to learn. And if you don't learn it, you're going to want to physically fight people all of the time. And I've worked in human resources. I know you have. One of the things you learn immediately is you're not managing people, you're managing personalities. And you got to know who is who can handle what. And a skilled person knows how to do that. And Melody does that in every single scene. So where some people are like, she's a victim, I always see her as a victor. I never see her as a victim. I know things happen to her, but she always rises to the occasion. She always handles herself in a way that is so beyond. Sometimes it's like, oh my God, how does she even know to do that? I have said on this platform, I hate to keep like tooting this horn, but I'm gonna keep tooting it because I've been the only one to say it for a very long time. Number one, she's really smart. Number two, she has the same skill with how she handles things as as a newbie in the reality TV world, because she came on as a newbie and she was still good. Like she was operating like a veteran to me. And number three, sometimes when I'm watching the show, it plays for me like the art of war, like the way she handles herself is the art of
Mhm.
war. And if you are the type of person who react or act before they think and speak, you want to
Mhm.
watch her, period. You want to watch how she handles herself because she's really good at it. She has some snappy
Yep.
comebacks.
Mhm. I agree.
She has those snappy comebacks and she knows how to articulate herself where others fail. They'll just sit and
Mhm.
brood and I'm angry. I'm this. I'm going to beat your ass. She doesn't do all
Right.
that. She just knows
Mm-mm.
her point across without all that extra. And I love it. And we're going to talk about that too, because there is a common theme that has been going on in this in season 6B that I don't know if people have been paying attention to, but we're going to talk about it. Anyway, let's talk about this article. Because again, a lot of what Crystal Jordan had to say is what I've said, okay? The sport of reality TV, and it is a sport since the very beginning, its inception, it has always been about interpersonal relationship challenges, whether it's marriage, friendships, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. It is that, okay? It
Mhm.
doesn't suit everyone. The cameras exploit the weak as disposable collateral damage in exchange for the success of their stronger counterparts. Being mentally sound is important, and understanding the long game strategy is imperative to being successful on reality TV. And few play the game better than the beautiful queen of Love and Marriage Huntsville, Melody Holt, now Melody Shari or Melody Rogers. Melody is as beautiful as she is smart. That is a lethal combination for audiences that praise aesthetics over substance, and production teams that have no choice but to join forces with the smart ones to manipulate the unsuspecting remaining cast members. Now, I know people probably got really bent out of shape about that, but I'm going to bring some examples so that you understand what she meant by it. Because when she said it, I was like, oh, she talking about first season, child. We all remember who's her name? Tisha sitting at that table talking about Melody, you didn't call me when my grandmother passed and my auntie passed. And Melody saying, Tisha, I got things going on. Like my marriage is on the rocks. And her looking at her like, I'm not buying that shit. Like, I think she even said it. But anyway, she said Melody had the upper hand from day one because she was the one that pitched the show to executive producer Carlos King years before the show premiered on OWN. She and her then husband, Martel Holt, appear to be the definitive power couple, a beautiful couple running a real estate construction business with a brood of adorable children, gave the audience a visual of Black familial excellence. Black familial excellence. What a phrase, because that really is the Black excellence that we were seeing on television. It gave
Right.
the audience the visual of two beautiful Black people in business together. And Melody and Martell had chemistry. They had been married for a long time, but they also had chemistry that we could see when we were watching the show. And the kids just was a cherry on top. That was the
Mhm.
Black excellence. And I'm happy that she defined it as this. It was no surprise that Carlos was sold to a duo that looked like they could model on the side and could bring additional like minded couples to the table. Little did he know, Melody would do better producing than the executive producer of a reality could. Okay. Okay. Now, I know that might feel like a little bit of stabbing and a little bit of compliment, but it was
Mhm.
truly all compliment because what Melody did, and when she said Melody actually was the producer, is she had made the decision from the very beginning, and she said this over and over and over again. I'm going to tell the truth. I'm going to tell my story. I
Mhm.
don't care what anybody else do. I'm going to tell my story. And when a person decides to be honest, you're never going to break them. because everybody, it's the lie that people are looking for. It's the lie that
Mhm.
people are hunting for,
They're
nothing else.
looking to get you caught up in it, right?
Correct. And so when Melody showed up on the scene, and Martell had made everyone promise not to talk about the infidelity, everybody else is already at a disadvantage. And Melody at
Mhm.
that point is saying, I'm going to trump everybody with the truth, including
Mhm.
my husband, who, has also said, don't tell this part of our story. And Melody defied it. She went and did it anyway.
Mhm.
So after that happens, we're watching one person go through a truth crusade, and we're watching everybody else try to hide their dirt.
Right.
And that makes her like this, like in regards to where the producers can't do shit with everybody else because everybody else is feeding them lies. And she's the only one,
Right.
you know what I'm saying?
Obvious ones. Right.
Yeah, everybody else is feeding them lies, and they have to create a story around the lie they're telling, whereas Melody is
Right.
telling the truth, and the viewers at this point, who are crusaders for Melody as well, they're
Mhm.
uncovering the lies of the other. So that is what I think was meant by saying that in the cutest of ways, right?
Mhm. Correct. Yes.
Okay, she goes on to say the initial premiere was lackluster, but reality gold was right around the corner. Martell was having an affair, but instead of the other cast members outing the scandal, which is what would have happened if Melody didn't do it, Melody brought the rumors to their group of friends on camera. And that was at the dinner scene when Melody was the one who brought up the respectful cheating. Her and Martell show up at Kimmy's house. Martell is allegedly at a funeral. Melody comes to the house by herself. And the second she says, everybody asks her, "Where's Martell?" And she goes, "I don't know." Everybody's looking at each other. Remember that scene, you guys? Everybody's like, "What the hell does she mean? She doesn't know." I think one of the men, maybe it was Marceau, say, I thought he went to a funeral." And if he did go to a funeral, why the hell aren't you with him? Because that doesn't happen. And then they all pitch in and say, "Listen, Melody and Martell are shoulder to shoulder, elbow to elbow, hip to hip. Even on their worst days, they know how to come together with each other to, give this public appearance. So this shit isn't normal." But
Mhm.
um it goes on to say he was admittedly taken aback by his wife bringing up the possibility of him having an affair on camera. Keep your penis in the household, okay? That's what she said on that boat, and that was a shot heard around the world. Everybody was gasping, but she got on that boat. Kimmy's wedding day, they're downstairs partying and dancing. Melody and Martell go upstairs to talk, and he doesn't like that Melody has been spreading the story about him cheating. And he said, "You need to keep that in our household." She said, "Keep your damn penis in our household." And that's made the show after that. Everybody was tuned in. But it goes on to say, what made the Holt divorce different from the others is that Melody, the betrayed spouse, who shared the information with the producers. Okay, so Melody did share that information. We already know. Oh, here it is. This was the article that everybody was talking about. They were like, "Oh, the MSN just put out an article." Again, it was an op-ed or just a blogger piece. Martell Holt needs to be off of television permanently was the title. It goes on to say that Melody got ahead of the narrative and ended up winning over the show's audience due to her own strength in dealing with her husband's continued infidelity. Martell attempted to defend himself by suggesting that Melody cheated during the marriage also, but by that time the narrative was locked. And she also shared, when I actually entertained dating someone else, she said that her and Martell were separated. She said they didn't even live together. So she was, again, also very open in sharing that information. The audience was locked. The audience's brains and Melody, excuse me, let me read that line again. By that time, the narrative was locked in the audience's brain, and Melody was the resilient victim. Martell was the villain, and he was also stupid enough to lose the best thing that ever happened to him. Mm, mm.
Yeah. Very complimentary.
That's complimentary. Instead of
Mm-hmm.
crying on the show about her failed marriage for multiple seasons, Melody actually became a heroine of sorts, creating a line of t-shirts. Now I added the heroine part, but she did. So when people talk about her as a victim, I'm like, she's always been a hero. She's always championed, you know, it's this is the circumstances. You make lemonade out of lemons, period. Line of t-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, championing the exit of her marriage with slogans like God said go, facts. She wore her merchandise proudly during her taping. She began making subtle hints that her marriage wasn't the only one suffering from infidelity. She sure did. She talked about Marceau and Tisha. She said, drive your ass up to the bar. Get them kids a babysitter, drive up to the bar and check with your own eyes if you want to see what your husband's up to. Um, it goes on to say that the Scotts were actually friends and business partners of the Holts when the series began, but Melody's interference that Letitia was turning a blind eye to her husband's infidelity drove a wedge between the two families and ultimately divided the show into Team Holt versus Team Scott. And it was actually Martell's interference because Martell called that out before Melody said one word. But Tisha focused all of the energy on Melody, saying, Martell lied on my husband. Melody said, how do you know it was a lie? And that brought tears to Tisha's eyes because she thought Melody was keeping something from her. And she said, if you know, why wouldn't you tell me? And Melody said, because you don't want to know the truth. And if you do, this is what you should do. And that's how she handled it. Turns out that Tisha's mama ended up driving up to the bar. Okay. Anywho, you guys, y'all can read the rest. I'm not kidding. Tisha's mama said, I actually followed him. She admits it to this day. Okay.
Mm.
But it just goes on to talk about it. It says that because the show revolved mostly around Melody and Martell, most of the new cast members were brought onto the show via Melody. They all came on as a friend of Destiny, Lewis, Tiffany Whitlow, Stormy Still, Courtney Beasley. All new cast members initially supporters of Melody. The newest formal addition happens to be Kiki Jabbar, who we all know is Tisha's cousin. And people were actually a bit surprised that Kiki was coming on as a friend of Melody. They were also surprised that Kiki was talking about Tisha's marriage to Melody, which again, I still don't see what that particular conversation was that was such a threat, but some people do. Over time, Melody falls out with other cast members as she's brought to a party, including Destiny and Stormy, but she's always prepared with a new successful friend to fill their spot. And this season it is Lernail, spelled Lernail, Fletcher, and her husband Chris. They're the latest Huntsville recruits. And though the couple claims to be unbiased about Melody and Martell's demise, they clearly are in support of Melody over the rest of the cast. Lernail immediately began throwing shade at Letitia and Marceau's inability to host a business convention. Okay, she's just giving me some more stuff. I'm trying to see if there's anything else. Oh, if fans suspect Melody is behind the drama on the show, it's hard to pin it to her because she has become less of a cast member and more of a producer. So it looks like she has more of a producing role on the show. Okay. So when
You can see it. You can see it.
Miss Freeman said power couple, maybe this is what she was referring to. Y'all remember Miss Vanessa calling Melody and Carlos King a power couple? Do I still have that pinned up for here? Let me see. So under a recent pic of Carlos King and Melody Shari, Melody's mother posted this message. Hearts, fire emoji, I love it. Redefining hashtag power couple, hashtag melodrops. Happiness looks good on you too. At Melody Holt, let's go. So that is why Melody is on the other side of the camera, according to this article. So she may have followed up with Melody and got some information. Oh, and look, it says that Melody represents a heroine. For many women, it's hard to pinpoint her with any particular manipulative act besides aligning other members to do her dirty work for her. Unlike the rest of the cast, it's clear that she was built for reality TV and have full knowledge of what she is doing on the show. Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was a good article. I don't think it paints her in a bad light at all. If Melody is guilty of anything, it is being the best player on the reality TV show game and knowing how to capitalize off of her pain in a way that most people wouldn't have had the emotional maturity to stomach. And that is what is
Correct.
important here.
Yes, she is playing
It's
chess.
not that,
Everybody else is playing checkers.
and not people just don't have they can't do it. We
They
live in our
can't do
head.
it.
We all live in our
Yeah,
head.
I agree.
Melody has a way of like being laser focused with what she wants, and she can
Mhm.
block out some of that stuff. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean it doesn't affect her, because she probably does have really hard moments when she's not on camera, but when it is time to go to work, she can move right past that shit and do what she's supposed to do. And that's what I mean by art of war and how brilliant it
Mhm.
is. It is mind
Yeah.
over matter.
Yep.
Okay.
I equated it to Survivor, but you're right. You just used a more intelligent approach than I did by talking about a book. But I
Mm,
equated it to Survivor, where everybody has to anticipate their opponent's move, right? They
mhm,
have to anticipate like what their opponent is going to do next,
mhm.
and then figure out what their strategy is going to be. And you can clearly see that that's what she does when
And
she's trying to work around all of these other
and people have to also know
characters.
that you wanna win the long game. That's what they said at the
Right.
beginning. You wanna win the long game. So there may be moments that it feels like someone got the upper hand on her, but she always wins the long game. When Tisha
Hmm.
was at that Galentine's event with her team white shirt and her bubblegum tennis shoes or pants on, yo, tennis shoes. Remember, that's how Kimmy introduced her? And Tisha probably thought she ate at the table. And Melody said, "I gotta go before y'all end up walking me out of here. The police end up walking me out of here." But when we see her, 2 episodes ago, standing in front of the gym and say, "Hey, Tisha girl," that's a moment where she's letting her know, it's your turn, bitch, right?
Hmm. Yep.
Team
Slapping you
white.
back.
And all of a
Hmm.
sudden, you can't even take the scene. You don't even want to
Mm-mm.
be here, and I know it. And she gave those toodaloo fingers. That was amazing. That was, I see you, and I just want to make sure that you know that I see you. That is what I love. I'm going to smile. I'm going to give you guys what you need, but I'm never going to forget. And if people just pay attention to how she works, you will see it. Okay. While the remaining seasons put the Scots marriage under a microscope, oh, let me make sure I'm reading this correctly. It is not surprising that Melody decided to abandon her last name Holt in the most recent episode and return to her birth name Rogers, so there would be no confusion as to where the success resides as opposed to the failures. While the remaining season put the Scots marriage under a microscope and foreshadows the breakdown of several other relationships, including possible legal trouble for Kiki and former cast member Destiny Payton. Melody Rogers is flying high on the wings of success. It would be interesting to see what her next moves are, but one thing is for sure, and two things are for certain. Melody is definitely going to come out shoulders above the rest of her cast, and fans are going to continue loving to see it. Thank you. I like this article, Miss Crystal Jordan. Kudos on writing that. I thought it was well done, and I think it explained things well. I know there's a lot of people who are like, super fans who probably knew she had like one or two things about the story off, but it all ties together in the end. So be sure to let me know what you guys think. If y'all have a difference of opinion, like the video, subscribe to my channel, hit your notification bell, and share. And I will talk to you all on the next one.